Is Semax a stimulant? Well, the short answer is no, but it requires some precision to explain why. Because Semax, what it does is it increases alertness in some users. It does modulate dopamine, and it does have like a 2 to 3 p.m. dosing cutoff for some of you to prevent sleep disruption, but it's not a stimulant. As a matter of fact, in some of you, it's going to calm your brain down so you can be relaxed and focused. And so understanding, what Semax does, that's what we're going to dive into in this video, but we'll also talk about how it may be more impactful than stimulants, because stimulants, the unfortunate side is that they do have side effects. I mean, your brain, if you put too much caffeine in your body, you remember you've got a gas pedal and a brake. Every biological system has these feedback loops. And when you have caffeine that gets introduced, now you have adenosine. And adenosine is what makes your brain tired. And that's where you need that second cup and that third cup. That's why maybe adding in a little L-theanine can help, or just adding in green tea or black tea with naturally occurring L-theanine. But Semax, we're going to talk about the compound's risks, what it does, what it doesn't do. And for all of you nerds out there who really want to expand your brain performance, I think Semax is a go-to. It's been my go-to for over a decade. So we're going to dive into that. I'm Regan Archibald. For those of you who we haven't met, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am a founder of a company called Ageless Future, and we're a leader in longevity medicine. And we put together very personalized peptide protocols based on blood labs. And what I'm going to show you is what most people don't understand yet. And for those of you who want to go deeper, get your blood labs ran, work with 503A compounding pharmacies and licensed providers, just go to agelessfuture.com. My team will take great care of you. So what does a stimulant actually do? Well, in classical stimulants like the amphetamines, the methamphetamines, cocaine, they produce their effects through this dopamine transporter, or DAT. And DAT is the protein that recycles dopamine from the synapses back to the neuron after it's been released. Amphetamines, they reverse this transporter. Instead of moving dopamine back into the cell, they force it out. And the result is a massive non-physiological flood of dopamine into the synapse. And this is what produces that rush, the sustained high alertness, the appetite suppression, and with chronic use, as you can imagine, the downregulation, it creates massive addiction. So don't try these, please. The European Psychiatry in 2019, there's a systemic review, this meta-analysis of 39 neuroimaging studies covering 655 stimulant users. Now, this was cocaine, methamphetamine, nicotine, and they also had 690 healthy controls. And across every substance category, stimulant use was associated with significant downregulation of DAT availability in the caudate and putamen and striatal regions that regulate motor control, reward, and habit formation. This is the neuroimaging signature of classic stimulant use. There's a depleted dopamine transporter from years of using these substances, and it causes this reverse transport abuse. Okay, so that's the stimulant. So does Semax do this? Does it bind DAT? Does it cause just this flood of dopamine into the synapses? Well, it doesn't. And that's the good news, because it produces no DAT regulation. Now, this term nootropic is something that's been thrown around for quite a while, and many of you take nootropics and don't even realize it. We talked about caffeine earlier. That is a classic nootropic, because when used properly, it does seem to have some really beneficial properties to the brain, as something like coffee or tea. But the Semax, there's some minor distinctions that make it really powerful, because Semax, based on the entire mechanism that we just went through on stimulant addiction, Semax lacks every feature of that profile. So Semax, in the World Journal of Neuroscience in 2016, they analyzed and examined Semax. What does it actually do? And they looked at this in these rat models with Parkinson's disease. And the rats had this specific 6-OHDA, and that's a neurotoxin that destroys the dopaminergic neurons selectively. And what Semax did is it modulated dopamine, noradrenaline, and serotonin levels in specific brain regulations. And then they also found the GDNF receptor gene expression. Now, GDNF is your glial cell line-derived neurotropic factor. And the glial cells, they protect the neurons, and they maintain the dopaminergic neurons in the striatum and frontal cortex. So critically, Semax did not produce the uniform striation of dopamine flood as seen with amphetamines. Now, this is really important because Dr. Guardier, who's one of the Romanian researchers who coined the term nootropic, he saw the damaging impacts of amphetamines. Now, if you think of the German military in World War II, they were loaded up with amphetamines and methamphetamine, and they saw the complete destruction of the military after about 5 or 6 years. It does not end well. And so Dr. Guardier, as he started looking at these unique formulas like the racetams and these agents called the nootropics, Semax fit that category because, you know, a nootropic, it makes you more stress resilient. It leads to better long-term memory. It doesn't rob one part of the brain to feed another. And it's non-habit forming and doesn't pose any safety risks of damaging the brain like these amphetamines do. And so with Semax, what they found is there's receptors that are activated through working memory and executive function. And these genes are activated by about 25 to 40% in the receptor binding assays. And so it also modestly raises the extracellular dopamine through indirect neurotropic mechanisms, not through DAT, you know, that reversal where just dopamine gets dumped into the synapse. The result, they found improved working memory and attention without the tolerance-dependent cycle. So indirect neurotropic dopamine support, not chemical flooding. Now, that's the real key with Semax. So Semax also modulates norepinephrine and noradrenaline, and this is an arousal neurotransmitter. So it's probably why you notice you're a little more alert when you use this. And it's not a stimulant effect. You're just getting that influx of this little neurostimulation from epinephrine and norepinephrine for like POTS conditions. We've used this for. We've seen it very effective. Even for people who just have like that autoimmune kind of mild cognitive decline, long COVID, where the brain just feels like there's a fog over it. Semax can be very helpful. Now, Semax is not FDA approved. In Russia is where it was developed, and it did make the list of vital and essential drugs since December of 2011. But it's not FDA approved. And we do have a lot more human clinical trials that need to happen right here in the United States. But if they look at, you know, the data on dependence, withdrawal, chronic tolerance in long-term users, there's nothing in the Russian literature or regulatory documentation that explicitly states that there is any kind of dependency or withdrawal syndrome because of that DAT binding mechanistically. It doesn't seem like our brain gets addicted to Semax, but we always play it safe. And this is where you want to cycle on and cycle off anything that's used to enhance the brain, your muscles, your cardiovascular system, this ageless axis. You want to make sure that you're doing it appropriately. So using Semax for a certain period of time, maybe 30 days, and then cycling off and using like Selenk for more of the GABA and the relaxation. I've got videos on Selenk as well, and we'll provide a link for you. But the other thing is, why would you be cautious? Because if Semax is a stimulant, that's where we really have to start saying, okay, let's be careful with this. But according to the literature, this is not at all a stimulant. The exciting thing about this is if you can get Semax through a prescribing provider who's using 503A compounding pharmacies, you can use this as a nasal spray or injection. I can just do it subcutaneously, but the nasal sprays seem to be a little stronger. For those of you looking for that, just go to agelessfuture.com, get your blood labs ran first. And in blood markers, you want to look at your fibrinogen, your homocysteine levels. You want to look at any kind of cardiovascular markers. All these things are really important and critical for your long-term health. And my team of medical providers, they'll help you get the right direction, take the right course of action, so you can do this in the most effective way. So appreciate you being on the channel. For those of you who have interesting insights or things that you've learned about Semax, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you in the next video.